Hey, young and profiters. Welcome to the sixth and final episode of the YAPCreator Series presented by OpusClip. In this series, we're diving deep into the art and science of content creation, how to create, connect, and thrive as a modern-day creator. We're finishing up this series with a look into the brave new world of AI content creation. In this episode, we'll dive into some practical AI strategies that can help you unlock your creative potential. And you'll hear from YAP guests like Dean Graziosi, Jen Gottlieb, Bilyeu, and Reid Hoffman about how they think AI will remake content creation and entrepreneurship in the future. All right, let's get into it. And let's start off with this hard truth. If you want to be an entrepreneur and a content creator in 2025, you have to learn how to use AI tools. It's no longer an optional feature or nice to have capability. You need to know how to use AI and how to figure out how it can best help your business. AI has already transformed entrepreneurship in recent years. Today, AI and other online technologies have made it possible for people to start a business in a matter of hours with minimal upfront costs. Dean Graziosi, the iconic entrepreneur, business expert, and co-founder of Mastermind, reminded me recently of how far we've come as entrepreneurs over just this current century.
When I started 27 years ago, listen to this, Hala, I had to produce an infomercial because there was no internet. People are like, why did you do infomercials? Like, 'cause I'm old. There was no internet. So I had to produce an infomercial, which was $150,000. And I used credit cards to get half that done. I had to get product built. This was when there was DVDs and cassette tapes and booklets. I had to get product printed and I had to put it in the warehouse, and tapes and DVDs. I had to hire a company to ship it. Then I had to pay $50,000 in TV media just to get a test. So I was in over $200,000 and I was selling a $37 course. Like, my family's like, you're an idiot. Like, how many of those $37 courses do you have to sell just to get your money back? All of that had to happen. Fast forward today. You could literally use AI to help you unlock your life experience, to turn it into a coaching program or a course or a workshop or a monthly membership. You literally could do that in hours, right? You could get the framework of what you do. I would love to know your entrepreneurial journey. When I met you, you wanted to be an entrepreneur. Now you got 60 or 80 employees and a thriving business. I would pay anything. I want to know your story. If you were 27 years ago, you'd have to do all things I did. Right now, you literally could go to AI for a day, lay it out, film on your phone, and plug into a system where by the end of the week, for the cost of like 5 cups of coffee, you could be online targeting your ideal client and making sales. So if you look at why it's been easier, things are getting exponentially easier every single day. People say to me, is AI going to take my job? I'm like, no. People who use AI the right way will take your job or take your career. That's all it is. It's not stealing your job. And everything new, maybe not for a younger generation, but everything new for a little bit older generation thinks it's the end of the world.
Like Dean said, AI is making some things exponentially easier. And if you aren't going to take advantage of that in your business, then you can bet that other entrepreneurs out there will be using it in theirs. And because AI, along with the internet, cloud computing, and access to data, have made it easier than ever for people to start businesses, you can expect a jump in the number of solopreneurs and entrepreneurs in the years ahead. Peter Norvig, the former head of search at Google and an AI expert, told me about some of the advantages he thinks AI-savvy entrepreneurs will have in the years ahead, including an unprecedented opportunity to challenge much larger competitors and established brands. So this conversation made me realize that there really is no better time to be an entrepreneur, because as we were talking about, a lot of jobs might get replaced by AI. And when you're an entrepreneur, when you own the business, you're sort of in control of all those decisions. And you're the one who might end up benefiting from the cost savings of replacing a human with AI. So do you feel like AI is going to generate a lot more entrepreneurs and solopreneurs in the future?
Absolutely. And I think it's a combination. So I think AI is a big part of it. I think the internet and access to data was part of it. The cloud computing was a big part of it, right? So it used to be, if you were a software engineer, the hardest part was raising money because you had to buy a lot of computers and just to get started. Now all you need is a laptop and a Starbucks card, and you can sit there and start going, and then rent out the cloud computing resources as you need them and pay as you go. And so I think AI will have a similar type of effect. You can now start doing things much more quickly. You can prototype something and go to a release product much faster. And it'll also make it more widely available, right? So, there's a lot of, so I live in Silicon Valley, so I see all these notices going around of saying, looking for a technical co-founder. Right. So there's lots of people that say, well, I have an idea, but I'm not enough of a programmer to do it. So I need somebody else to help me do it. I think in the future, a lot of those people will be able to do it themselves. Right. So I had a great example of a friend who's a biologist. And he said, I'm not a programmer. I can pull some data out of a spreadsheet and make a chart, but I can't do much more than that. But I study bird migrations, and I always wanted to have like this interactive map of where the birds are going and play with that. And he said, and I knew a real programmer could do it, but it was way beyond me. But then I heard about this Copilot, and I started playing around with it, and I built the app by myself. And so I think we'll see a lot more of that, of people that are, non-technical or semi-technical, who previously thought, here's something that's way beyond what I could ever do. I need to find somebody else to do it. Now I can do it myself.
Yeah, I totally agree. And we're seeing it first with like the arts. For example, now you can use DALL-E and be a graphic designer. You can use ChatGPT and be a writer. So many of the marketing things are already being outsourced by AI. It's only a matter of time where some of these more difficult things like creating an app, like you were saying, is going to be able to be done with AI.
Absolutely.
Cool. So what are the ways that you advise that entrepreneurs use AI in the workplace right now?
I guess so. You could help build prototype systems like that. You can do research. You can ask, give me a summary of this topic. What are the important things? What do I need to know? As you said, creating artwork and so on, if that's not a skill you have, they can definitely help you do that. Looking for things that you don't know is useful. And so I think just being aware of what the possibilities are and having that as one of the things that you can call upon. It's not going to solve everything for you, but it just makes everything go a little bit faster.
Yeah. Do you think that AI is going to help accelerate income inequality?
I think it's kind of mixed. So, any kind of software, any kind of goods with zero marginal cost tends to concentrate wealth in the hands of a few. And so that's definitely something to be worried about. With AI, we also have this aspect that the very largest models are big and expensive. They require big capital investments. And if you'd asked me 2 years ago, I would have said, all the AI is going to migrate to the big cloud providers because they're going to be the only ones that can build these large state-of-the-art models. But I think we're already going past that, right? So we're now seeing these much smaller open source models that are almost as good and that, don't impose a barrier of huge upfront costs. So I think there's an opportunity. Yes, the big companies are going to get bigger because of this, but I think there's also this opportunity for the small opportunistic entrepreneur to say, here's an opening and I can move much faster than I could before, and I can build something and get it done and then have that available.
As AI continues to advance, those who fail to adopt risk will fall behind their more tech-savvy competitors. But those who can figure out how to leverage AI effectively will have a major competitive advantage. Sal Khan, the founder of the Khan Academy, who's working with OpenAI to develop AI tools for teaching students, told me that AI is going to fundamentally change the nature of work. And he believes that those who can level up their skills to keep up with that pace of change will rise to the top. A lot of the times when we're thinking about AI, we're thinking about how it replaces something. But this is really all about how it's supporting students. How do you think that this could also translate in the workplace or in the private sector?
Yeah, I think it is a big, interesting question on what AI is going to do to the labor force broadly. I think, the meme that has been going around over the last year and a half has been, you won't get replaced by an AI, you're going to get replaced by a human using an AI. And so I think the imperative is that almost in any industry, if you learn to leverage these tools to be more productive, you're going to be in a good place, and maybe be more productive in more domains as well. I think that's where the education system needs to make sure that students can leverage these tools, one, to enhance their own learning. At the end of the day, if you want to be, people say how AI can do writing well, how it can do software engineering well. The reality is you're still going to need people to be able to put those pieces together. And so instead of being the person writing the basic code, you're going to be more of the software architect or the project manager. Instead of being the entry-level writer, the world is going to need more editors, more people who can put things together. But no one wants an editor or a software architect who can't write or code as well as the junior writers or the junior software engineers. So I think it's still an imperative for people to learn their traditional academic skills. It's in fact maybe better than in the past, and maybe the AI can help there. And then be able to leverage these tools in whatever they're actually doing.
So let's dig into how AI tools can help you raise your content creation game or just get it started. Content creation can be a demanding process, and one of the biggest challenges that new creators face is coming up with fresh, engaging ideas. This is where AI can become your brainstorming buddy and your new best friend. AI can help content creators generate ideas from podcast topics and episode names to social media posts and catchy opening lines. Jen Gottlieb, who's helped countless of entrepreneurs get their message out, told me how she envisions AI as every entrepreneur's personal assistant when it comes to content creation. When I went on your website, I noticed your big message point right now is AI. We help you leverage AI to grow your brand, to build communities. Can you give us some examples of how you guys are actually leveraging AI to do that?
Yeah, it's so cool. So Hala, have you started playing with it at all yet?
Of course. I'm doing all these different things. I'm trying to regenerate my voice so I don't have to record commercials and doing all this kind of stuff.
Yes, we've been doing that too. So there's so much. It's a little overwhelming at how much and how fast it's happening. But there is so many amazing tools out there right now, even just using ChatGPT. Forget all the hundreds, thousands of tools that there are to generate voice, generate images, repurpose content, generate video. There's so many tools, but really ChatGPT alone can help you create so much content at scale. So for people, and the biggest excuse that I hear that people give me on a regular basis is to why they're not posting and why they're not sharing is because they don't know what to say. They don't have any ideas. They don't know what to talk about. I'm like, you no longer have that issue. You no longer have that issue because you have ChatGPT 4. And you can literally just go in there and have it act as your personal content creator assistant. And it doesn't mean that it needs to write all of your stuff for you, but you can have it as your assistant, help you come up with ideas, help you come up with podcast ideas, names of episodes, different posts that you can do. We use all kinds of different apps to crop our videos and make our reels and give us scripts for YouTube videos and YouTube ads and Facebook ads. The opportunities are endless. So we're doing actually monthly challenges where we're teaching just beginners how to understand these technologies so they can slowly start to implement them into our business because we're still early. The most of the world still doesn't understand this or know how to use it. And so if you could just get on board early, your business is going to skyrocket way faster than all the other ones that are going to eventually have to get on board because it's not going anywhere. In fact, the CEO of Google, did you hear this? Said that AI is more profound than fire and electricity.
Wow.
So it's pretty awesome. I get that it's scary for some people, but also what's really important to remember is that AI is not necessarily going to take your job. However, maybe somebody that understands and knows how to use AI might. So it's important for everyone to start just learning, just playing. All you got to do is start playing with it. You don't have to become an expert right away, but just familiarize yourself with it. And if it can help you create content and take that fear out of the way of not knowing what to say and not knowing what to write, it can really be an amazing sidekick for you.
I love how Jen describes AI as an amazing sidekick. The key then is not to view AI as a replacement for human creativity, but as a collaborative partner that can spark your inspiration and unleash your own imaginative potential. Sal Khan also believes that AI will enhance creativity, not destroy it. And he imagines a future in which more people will be able to generate and test ideas than ever before. So I know one thing that you talked about in your book is how AI can potentially supercharge human creativity. Can you talk to us about some of the ways that you imagine it can do that?
Yeah, I mean, this is the other fear that folks have is that, like, I mean, I could go onto any of these generative AIs and say, hey, write a screenplay for me or create an art piece in the style of whatever, and it's just there. And so everyone's afraid, like, oh my God, this is the end of creativity. I'll say a couple of things. One, this isn't the first time in history something like this has happened, and I write about this in my book, Brave New Words, is in the 19th century, when the camera came out, I am sure a lot of portrait artists said, oh my God, this is cheating. This thing, you just press a button and it does essentially a real life picture of it. But all of the artistry is gone. Now we know on one level that didn't happen. Maybe the people hiring a portrait artist to paint a portrait of them, maybe that market has declined a little bit because of the camera, but it didn't get rid of creativity. In fact, a whole new field, a new creative field, not only existed, but it democratized art in some ways where more people could do artistic things. I think you're going to see something very similar happening with AI. And the other thing I emphasize is, creativity isn't a zero-sum game. It's not that, like, let's say you and I, let's consider ourselves creative people. Each of us by ourselves can be reasonably creative. But if you and I are able to chat about things and brainstorm together and riff together, I think we're each going to become more creative, not less. I'm not just going to say, oh, Hala has got good ideas, I'm just going to check out. I'm going to say, oh, I love Hala's idea there. And well, what if we did this too? I think any of us who consider ourselves reasonably creative recognize that our most creative times in our life were when we were around other creative people. And so I think AI is going to democratize that, where there could be a young girl in Afghanistan someplace, and she's not even allowed to go to school, but if she has access to this, she could brainstorm, she could riff ideas, she could test ideas. Now, it'll be even better if it could be with the AI and other people around, but you might not have that. And so I think AI is going to actually be an enhancer for creativity. I also think it's going to lower, if today you or I didn't even allow myself to think that I might be able to become a filmmaker one day. I was like, who gets to make a film? They cost tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. You got to know the right people, et cetera, et cetera. But now AI is going to make that much more accessible, where you can start to do movie quality production for 100th or 1,000th of the cost that you might have before. Now, once again, I don't think it's going to put creatives out of work. It's going to allow more people to have creative expression, and that the good stuff is going to surface. In fact, it's a lot like podcasts or YouTube. These were both democratizing. And yeah, they have in some ways threatened the traditional media establishment, but they've been good overall, because there's a lot of creative people who couldn't break into the traditional media establishment before, but now they can self-publish on a podcast or self-publish on YouTube, and the world discovers them.
But of course, AI is not just helpful for generating ideas. It can do so much more. As I discussed with the video marketing expert Ken Okazaki, AI can also generate multiple title and hook options for improved content performance. So for hooks, lately I've been using ChatGPT for anything that I have to come up with some sort of title. I'm like, say this in 10 different ways, right? Have you been using ChatGPT for that kind of thing?
We have this one-on-one coaching with our clients, because a lot of agencies, they actually provide all the tools. They say, just send us the video and we'll do everything else for you. Send us the podcast, we'll do everything, or we'll give you all the gear. And the gap in the market is actually someone to show up and live direct and coach people. A lot of people, they don't create it because they don't have the time, their schedule's too full, or they get set up and then their hour turns into 15 minutes because of all the other stuff they have to take care of. But the accountability. So our coaches actually now, using some AI, using their own experience as marketers, will create all of the content plans. And that's the hook. Whether it's a question you ask them that they can answer, whether it's finish the sentence, whether it's a framework. I have a few frameworks, like what I just showed you, the number and the emotional word. There's 100 others, but we'll get them all planned out. And then we'll have a conversation for an hour and shoot anywhere from 10 to 30 videos within that hour. And that's the short form content. So the hooks nowadays using ChatGPT does help us get there faster. It's like I can't think of an analogy here, but it just gets us there faster. So we're no longer starting from 0. We're starting from maybe 60 or 70, and then our coaches will finish the rest.
AI can also help you repurpose your content across different formats, maximizing its reach and impact. For example, AI can help you take an audio podcast and then create text-based content, social media clips, videos, and more. And according to the online marketing guru Neil Patel, this kind of content repurposing can be a game changer for marketing purposes.
What are the biggest trends that you see this year in marketing?
The biggest trend that we're seeing this year right now in marketing is podcasting. So people look at podcasting. We surveyed over 8,000 companies, and we found that the two big trends were podcasting and AI. And here's what I mean by that. When we look at the total number of blogs out there, it's over 1 billion. When you look at the total number of podcasts out there, it's less than 10 million. It's a wide open ocean. And then people are starting to repurpose that content and use it all over the place. Because you can use the podcast content to turn it into text-based content. You can use it to turn it into social media clips, whether it's shorts or long form video. And what's really cool is when you do podcasts, a lot of times people are doing them with other people like you and I are, and we're both going to push this on all our social profiles, and we're both going to get play from this. So it's actually a really amazing win-win strategy for both of us, right? So companies are really pushing hard on podcasting, and they're pushing really hard on AI. What can they automate? And most people look at AI like, oh, I can use OpenAI to help write content, and I can use them to figure out how to create images. But there's much more to AI. From when we interviewed companies, a big portion of what they're looking to use AI from in a marketing standpoint is analytics. How can you have AI analyze your analytics on a daily basis and tell you where the wastage is within your marketing campaigns and where you can cut costs and reallocate money? Because if you look at the biggest expense in marketing, it's not services. It's not writing a piece of content. It's actually spending money on paid advertising. Look at the revenue that Google is generating and Facebook is generating. I think Google still is like $1 trillion company or somewhere around there, depending on the month you're in. And Facebook's still a massive company. We spend so much money on ad dollars. Imagine if analytics were analyzed by AI and it told us quicker when to cut our losses.
Another area where AI can help you magnify your reach is in public relations. Here's Jen Gottlieb again talking about paid versus earned PR and the difference that AI can make.
Okay, let's talk about paid. Okay, paid versus earned. Earned is always the best. Always the best because it's earned media, right? They chose you to be on their platform. They chose you. So it's always going to be the most organic. It's always going to feel the best. It's always going to actually elevate your brand. Some forms of paid media, you can actually tell it was paid, and so that it can actually kind of make your brand look a little shitty. Excuse my language. It can do that. But here's the thing. Sometimes I have seen clients that have maybe done a paid sponsorship on a big show or strategically did some paid media where they were prepared to amplify it in a way that was going to create more credibility, influence, and authority in a big way. So as long as you know that you're going to, like, let's say you do a paid sponsorship, you've got a product. Let's say it's a food product. And I know that the Today Show, Good Morning America, sometimes they'll have sponsors. I think some of the other daytime shows like Drew Barrymore, like you can pay to get your product on that show. So if you go into it, not like, okay, all the people on the show are going to watch and see it, that's amazing. But how am I going to take this actual segment, this clip that I have, or this photo of me and my brand on this show and amplify it, send it out in emails, put it on my website, make 85,000 reels out of it, make an entire podcast out of it, use AI to take the actual content, repurpose the transcript of the entire interview, and make so many posts and tweets and threads. You could take one segment and you could make a year's worth of content out of that one segment. If you do it that way, I don't care what you do, if you pay or if it's earned. Obviously, it's always better earned, but it's what you do with it that counts.
AI can make content generation and deployment so easy at times that you can lose sight of your own role in the finished product. The networking expert Michelle Tillis-Letterman cautions that while AI can automate some tasks for us, it's important to maintain a human touch and authenticity in your content.
I think AI is really going to help people with technical skills, right? And these hard skills that we once used to need to go to school for and train for and memorize, we no longer are going to need to do that because AI is going to handle the hard skills for us. But what it can't do is the soft skills. And that's what makes connectors so special, right? And so I think being a connector is going to be actually more valuable and a skill that more hiring managers and people are going to desire as time goes on and as AI starts to take more precedent in the workplace. I think being a connector is going to even be more valuable.
I do worry about AI kind of removing the authenticity from our communications, because one of the things that AI does for us is it helps us draft communications really quickly, and then we might edit. But we might be, sending things without really putting ourselves into them. And that's where that authenticity and that connection can get lost. So use it for what it does, which is speed us up, but make sure that you kind of bookend it with the essence of you.
If you want to create high quality content at lightning speed, OpusClip is the AI tool you need in your corner. Whether you're a seasoned creator or just starting out, OpusClip helps you unlock the full potential of your content by transforming long-form videos into impactful short clips that engage your audience. At Yap Media, we're using OpusClip's AI features as a growth hack to streamline our content production and scale faster. By leveraging OpusClip, we can quickly extract the most engaging moments from our long-form podcasts and then turn them into bite-sized, shareable clips perfect for social media. This has allowed us to consistently create content that resonates with our audience while saving valuable time and resources. With OpusClip, we can maximize the reach of every piece of content we produce, ensuring it's optimized for platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts. It's not just about saving time. It's about boosting our content strategy and staying ahead of the competition. OpusClip is the AI hack that will help you create, share, and thrive as a modern-day creator. Finally, I wanted to take a step back and sketch out a future where AI is at the core of content creation and what it means to be an online entrepreneur. First, I want you to hear from Tom Bilyeu, who told me that the world as we know it as a content creator will end in the next 2 years. Here's his thoughts about increased competition as a creator with AI and how he thinks we should try to manage all this change. So one of the things that I read is that you say that content creation is going to completely change. You say the world as you know it as a content creator will end in 2 years. Now, as a content creator, that's very scary. Why do you believe that?
So AI tools will make it such that all of the things that we use as a moat are going to go away. So it takes a while to master all the tools. It takes a while to get all the different people on your podcast, all that stuff. What's going to end up happening is all of this information is going to fracture, like hyperfracture, and somebody will be able to have an idea for a video with or without a guest. I mean, you could post videos of like, here's my conversation, my imagined conversation with Elon Musk, stuff like that. And instead of actually needing to get that person on your podcast, you just have the AI spin up his personality. You ask a bunch of questions. And if you do it in a way that the audience finds more interesting than the next person, then that's going to be what it's going to be. So what's going to end up happening is right now, it's already changed so much. You're so young, you probably don't have a sense of just how much it's already changed. But like when I was growing up, there was, 5 channels and that was it. And they controlled the narrative. And we didn't even realize the narrative was being controlled. And then as things have gone to social, now you start seeing things break apart. Now, when I started podcasting, people literally like, Tom, why are you doing this? It's already played out. All the players that are there, that are going to be there. It's already decided, man. It's too late. When I started, there were 400 podcasts. There's now 6 million podcasts. So it is just insane how many more podcasts. And I may have said 400,000 podcasts. So the world has just changed absolutely dramatically. And that's going to keep happening, where the format of a podcast itself is going to get disrupted by somebody alone with an AI doing things that nobody's ever thought of before. And the difficulty of production, the friction of going from idea to execution is the current moat. That's going to go away, which means this will be more like TikTok. So instead of there being a person that has a podcast, take a Rogan or something like that, instead of that person dominating the landscape, you're going to have like,
one of his episodes might pop off, but somebody else is going to release something else that's a totally unique format that nobody saw coming. And it'll just be like that. And people will just be scrolling onto the next, onto the next, onto the next. And that's going to happen across everything. It's going to happen across video game production, which trust me, I have just as much anxiety as you. But the key is to adopt AI faster than the competition. And then just remember that, one, we're moving towards an abundance reality where if AI does all of the wildly disruptive stuff that people think it's going to do over the next, say, 10 years, it's also going to be dropping the cost of virtually everything. So everything is just getting cheaper. Now, this takes you into a post capitalistic society, and there are big questions around what that looks like. But people will have access to the things that they want for far, far, far cheaper. Now, that doesn't mean people won't find a way to peacock through other means, because we will. But especially when you throw in the mix brain-computer interfaces, this is all going to get real weird. There are already people that can play video games, like proper video games, using just their brain-computer interface.
Oh my God.
It's nuts.
That is so nuts. And you were just saying when you first started, 400,000 podcasts, and everyone was telling you, there's no chance, it's already saturated. AI is going to make things even more saturated. So what is your perspective about the increased competition and, if there's even a point to participate if there's going to be that much competition?
So I think people make a mistake when they do preemptive quitting or preemptive strikes. The reality is you want to pay attention. You want to be at the cutting edge. You want to be integrating AI. Right now, AI is a phenomenal tool and it is a terrible master. So it's not going to be able to do things without humans yet. So people should be excited right now for this phase. It's going to allow you to do more with less. And so if you're somebody like you that's paying attention, you've got a whole thesis, you know what you're moving towards, AI is going to help you keep costs down, help you stay really nimble. Now, if AI starts changing the landscape, then just pay attention. Like, okay, what do we need to do to stand out? How do we add value? And yes, it's going to change things. And yes, some people are going to get smashed into little pieces. But if you're really paying attention and if you continue to look at where is the puck going to go, then you'll be in better shape. Now, I've often made the quip that yes, you should always skate to where the puck is going to go, but it's getting a little hard now because the puck is teleporting. But it's the right idea. You want to pay attention to, okay, predictive engine. Where is this going? What does this mean for content creation? I think there is going to be that hyper fragmentation. I think this is really going to be about deep communities. So part of the reason that I'm on Twitch now doing my video game streaming is that, yes, I'm building a video game, so I need to build community around that. But also historically, I built audiences, not communities. And so this is a chance for me to really build a deep community where the interactions are very different. And that's going to be something that AI will have a hard time with, just because people know on the other side of this is not a person, it's AI. And so I think there will be some things that people just have a weird resonance when it's AI versus when it's a real person. So I'll be looking for opportunities like that. I'll be looking for places where I want to lean into the humanity of it all. And I'll be looking for places where I want to lean into the AI of it all. But because I don't push back on the way the world actually is, AI is here. AI will keep getting better. AI may slow down, but I don't think it's going to stop. So I'm just paying attention to where it's at and how I can leverage it for now.
While it's scary to think that AI is going to change everything, we can't just be scared. We've got to do something about it. And nobody's going to be more equipped to take on these challenges than entrepreneurs. We're creative. We're innovative, we're flexible, and we know how to manage people and eventually manage AI agents. In fact, Reid Hoffman told me in the near future, we're going to have AI agents on our phones, devices that become our personal assistants, tutors, drivers, advisors, and things that we can't even imagine yet. For the creative and innovative minds, AI won't be a threat. It's going to be a powerful amplifier. It will dramatically enhance our abilities, expanding the scope and impact of their ideas. In essence, AI will become a force multiplier for human ingenuity. Here's a clip from my conversation with Reid Hoffman, the co-founder of LinkedIn and an early investor in OpenAI, on AI agents, content creation, and the wild future that he predicts for us.
Part of what freaks people out a little bit is we are going to this agentic universe where all of a sudden, as opposed to having phones and PCs, which we'll still have, we'll have agents. And by the way, we'll have more than one. We may have one that we're particularly the Hala or Reid, ongoing companion, always around us and helping us with things. But there's going to be a suite of them, with kind of different specialties and different engagements. And by the way, your office is going to have one, your working group is going to have one, and, probably your podcast is going to have one, et cetera. And it'll be here fairly soon. And people say, well, if they're agentic, does that take my agency away? And the answer is no. The same way that when you work with colleagues and you work with employees and everything else, that expands your agency. That doesn't take it away. And by the way, these agents will be making predictions off all the data, which is a lot more than any of us have, about what things will be really good for us.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, thinking about agents is so mind-blowing. And when I think about AI and all the talks that I've had, a lot of people talk about it as being like a great equalizer. And we were just talking about how humans are not going to work and everything like that. But I'm competitive, right? So like, as I've been going through these conversations, I've been thinking about like, well, how am I going to be like the best version of me? How am I going to be like a better entrepreneur and compete? But now, as I've thought about it more, I realize that it's like, you have to be the best trainer of the AI. Like, I kind of imagine everybody being an entrepreneur, having agents that work at their personal company, basically. And you basically have to be the best at coordinating your agents and figuring out how to like mobilize all that AI and all your AI support. And so smart people are going to be smarter at that, right? And creative and innovative people are going to be more creative and innovative when it comes to their own agents. And so I just feel like a lot of people are probably worried that like, there's not going to be any room for them, to your point, as humans, but I really think it's going to be how you manage your AI.
In addition to training, it's also deploying, organizing, executing, strategizing, all of the above. And that's part of the reason why, kind of with super agency and the other kind of content that I've been trying to get out there in people's hands, like start playing with it, start exploring, because you want to start building the muscles, and getting engaged with it is really important. And that's the most central thing. And again, part of the reason I called it agency, because it's like, own your agency and go do it. And part of the super agency is when millions of us all start doing that, it benefits all of us much more than just even the technology benefits each of us individually by ourselves.
So one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about was trust when it comes to AI, because I feel like a lot of people are worried about misinformation. There's so many deep fakes out there, and people are just worried about trust when it comes to AI. So what are your thoughts around that?
So, look, trust is in an unfortunately short supply these days, generally, not just with AI. Trust in institutions, trust in, democracies, voting systems, other people's intent, other kinds of things. So trust is challenging. Now, the way that that I think is going to be very important to build and maintain trust with AI is for the people who are building it to be very clear about like what their goals are, what they're doing to try to build and maintain trust. Part of the reason why, of course, my encouragement with super agency is for people to go try it, because as they begin to try it and learn what kinds of good things they can do, what kinds of things can be empowered, that will be the kind of thing that builds the kind of positive trust in these kinds of circumstances. And, my advice to individuals, encountering these things, like, a classic suspicion is say, well, big tech companies who are trying to make a lot of money are building these things and they're trying to make money from you. And it's like, well, by the way, trying to make money from you is usually offering you a product and service you really like, that really is something that you come back for, that you keep using. That's good for you. That's the goodness of modern business. So you go, okay, so which things should I trust these AIs on and which things should I not? And the answer is, well, if you generally you should understand that a company is trying to have you as a lifelong loyal customer, that generally speaking, most of them are smart about doing that. So they're going to try to make it good. If it's something that's particularly important to you, cross-checking it's important. Like, when I go to GPT-4 and get a prompt and I go, that doesn't really make full sense to me. I'm going to go look at this a little bit more, because it's like, okay, if it said something about like, yeah, your lab, your black lab can eat that mushroom. It's like, nah, I really want to know.
Yeah, and double check that.
So, and so, that kind of thing. And by the way, over time, these will get better and better for, kind of how it operates. And so I think that's the kind of thing. But I think that's only by engaging and using, having dialogue, having that dialogue match our experience over time, being accountable as creators and companies for, here are the things that we warrant in the use and here are the things that are still under development, and being clear about that so that people have a sense of, okay, I understand it's not perfect, but it could be really good for me.
We were talking about deepfakes before, and I came across this interview of you interviewing your own AI on your YouTube. You call it Reid AI, and it's an AI video avatar of you. Talk to us about how you felt in that interview. Did you learn anything from it? Did it help you realize anything about AI in the future?
Well, so it came about primarily because I was like, look, here's a technology that everyone's so skeptical about. Our name for it is deep fakes. It's kind of like if your name was disaster, okay. So it's like, okay, but actually it was more interesting as kind of a palette and exploration. Like if you said, well, would I only want to talk to Reid AI? So absolutely not. But would I want to talk to Reid AI sometimes and doing these things and have that as a way of kind of having a dialogue with myself and also showing kind of what's good at? Because once I did that, one of the things I realized is I was, after I'd made that, I was off to go give a speech at the University of Perugia in kind of defense of an honorary doctorate. And I sort of wrote out the speech. And then I went, I could actually have Reid AI give this speech in I'm only really fluent in English, in all of these other languages, ranging from Hindi to Chinese to Arabic to all these things. And to give the speech in those languages where people are much like, it was bizarre listening to me, my voice, speaking Hindi or Chinese fluently. It's like, what would I sound like if I were speaking Chinese? Anyway, so, but it was like, it was humanizing, was the thing. I thought I would really dislike it. And it was humanizing, and it started making me realize, just as I say to other people, hey, you should use the technology to get a sense of it and control, and to kind of, give you, to reinforce your own agency with the technology. It was like, that was me doing that with that. And, we continue to do new things with Reid AI.
Yeah, it's so cool. I feel like in terms of content creation, I've got a lot of creator entrepreneurs that listen to the show. I feel like AI is totally going to change the game. Like even with me, I have my AI voice. If I'm sick or if I miss a commercial, we can use my AI voice as like an intermediate step. Like I'll always re-record it usually, make sure that it's me, but it's really close to my voice. Like people really can't tell. And we're working on my AI video. And to your point, like people probably think I'm crazy creating my own deep fake, but I want to be able to scale myself. And this is the future. And you just gave me such a great idea in terms of the translations.
Yes.
People love to watch content all over the world and not everybody speaks English. So one last question for you on the future of AI. So you're obviously at the forefront of this. You've thought a lot about it. You've written books on AI. So I just want you, and you can take your time with this because I think it's very interesting. How do you imagine our world to be 5, 10, 20 years in the future with AI? What do you imagine the world to be like?
Well, one of the things that's a great way to look foolish in the future is to make overly specific predictions. Partially because, the usual principle I used to say in this is the future is sooner and stranger than you think. And so, people thought in the 80s we're going to get AI, but we didn't get AI. We got the internet, we got mobile phone. Well, maybe now we're going to get AI. I mean, we're going to get what shape of AI is the interesting question. And so if you said, what I think is kind of the minimum guarantee is there's going to be like, as opposed to like computer interfaces or phone interfaces or else, we're going to have agents. And agents are going to be the primary mode of kind of navigation. What we describe in super agency as an informational GPS. So in this entire informational digital world, we'll do that. And there will be more agents than there are people, especially when you consider even though there might be just one agent Pi that's kind of then instantiated with what it remembers out of its conversations and interactions with Hala, what it understands, remembers in its conversation interactions with Reid, et cetera, et cetera. There's kind of this flow of agents. Now, one of the things that I think people haven't really fully tracked yet, but I think will be very interesting, is how agents end up talking to each other. Because when we have that many agents, part of how you and I are going to coordinate, like we say, hey, what should we talk about in the podcast? Well, one of our preps will be your agent will talk to my agent.
Oh my gosh.
And they'll kind of go, well, these topics will be really good. And, hey, when you ask a question this way, it'll be great. And when you answer it this way, it'll be great, and da-da-da-da, and, that kind of thing. Or this could be a really new, interesting thing to try. And that will be part of the world that we will be in. And I think that, part of that will then make, like the premium on thinking creatively, thinking differently, as you mentioned, will be much higher. The notion that, what we, kind of like my guess is, like, for example, if you go back 30 years and you told someone there were going to be these jobs called web designer, data scientist, other things, they go, what are you talking about? Crazy person from the future. And I think that's another thing that we're going to see even more of, which is like, oh, didn't realize that was going to be the job. Huh. Mm-hmm. And that's cool. And so I think that's those are some of the things, but, I try not to make overly specific predictions because usually maybe I'll put it this way. William Gibson, science fiction author, has a really good quote, which is, the future is already here. It's unevenly distributed. And he's been a great neuromancer, was the internet, everything else. Now, he was being asked in an interview, like, well, how did you see the future? And he's like, look, thank you for the compliment. But by the way, if you read Neuromancer, sure, I got AI right. I got the internet right. I missed the mobile phone. Right? And so that's the kind of thing that, we're always looking for, is that surprise and delight moment.
Well, Yap fam, that's it for episode 6, the final episode of the YAPCreator Series. As we've heard it in this series, creating content isn't just about algorithms and views. It's about connection, storytelling, and sharing your unique voice with the world. And remember, if you're eager to get started with using AI to take your content to the next level, then try OpusClip. OpusClip uses advanced AI to help you extract the most authentic, engaging moments from your content, whether it's a heartfelt story or a quirky interaction or an insightful tip. OpusClip makes it easy to transform those moments into shareable clips that truly connect with your audience and drive engagement. You can try OpusClip today at opus.pro/clipanything. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode and to the YAPCreator Series. I hope you're now equipped with the tools and knowledge to thrive in your creator journey. This is your host, Hala signing off and wishing you the best from one creator to another.